So what's up, guys? One of my big things for 2020 is I want to read a book a week, and I want to tell you guys about the best ones that I read. So my first review ever was on Atomic Habits, great book, and I gave you guys my top 3 takeaways from it. I want to do the similar thing on every book I read. I want to give you 3 takeaways that you can take and apply to your lives. I don't want to get too in depth. This isn't like a book summary. It's more about just showing you guys like what I took from it. So anyways, the second book that I'm going over is called Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. I really like this book because number one, it's super short. It only took me an hour to read. And when you're trying to read a book a week, getting a really short one's a good way to stay on pace. The long ones kill you. But anyways, this book is super cool because it takes a very basic story and it just kind of illustrates life in general. It talks about these 4 people who are stuck in a maze, and they're very fictional characters. 2 are rats or mice, whatever you want to call them, and then 2 are what they call little people, okay? And each person represents a different part of our nature. You know, we have a fearful nature, we have a resourceful nature, we have a nature that's ready to go take action, and so each of them represent a different part of our personality. And the cheese itself represents basically where we get our nourishment from, where we're, it could be our job, it could be, whatever we're doing to survive. And so these people are stuck in a maze and, they basically find an area where all this cheese is. And you have the 2 mice who are always ready to roll, once they start sensing that things are not going the way that they want. So, the moral of the story, or I guess the, start of the story, they all find this cheese and they're all just chilling. The cheese is great. They're making, they're getting all this cheese. So you get the 2 little people who pretty much set up shop at the cheese. They build a house. Every day they go eat the cheese. They're very comfy in life. And then you have the 2 mice that they start to sense that the cheese is getting old, the cheese is dwindling down, and that the cheese is not going to be there very long. And so the mice, who are the action takers and, the planners, they end up leaving. They leave even before the cheese is all gone because they know it's not a good source anymore. Whereas the 2 little people who are scared to move and get out of their comfort zone end up staying with the cheese. And eventually they realize that the cheese is gone and they don't even know how it happened. The mice knew that the cheese was going down and down and down and it wasn't going to be a good source, but the little people didn't realize that it was happening. They kind of turned a blind eye to it. And the moral is that when you start to see shifts changing, you need to take action. You cannot ignore them and put your blinders on. And so you get these little people who are really pissed because they think somebody moved their cheese, right? They think someone just took it one day and it was gone. But that's not the case. Things don't just happen in one day and they're gone. Poof. They happen over time, and you got to be seeing the signs to really understand that. And they tell the story of the 2 little people who blame it on the person who took it. They want to stay there still even though it's gone because they're hoping that it returns. They are scared to go back out in the maze because they haven't been there in years. They're older now and they don't really have the skills, whereas the mice, they already left. The action takers, they already left. They already found new cheese. They're living great lives because they're always moving and adapting. And that's the moral of the story, and how we need to apply it to our lives is that just because something has been great for you, even for a long period of time, that does not guarantee that it'll be there tomorrow, okay? Things are always changing in our world, and so you have to understand who's moving your cheese and where's it going, okay? The cheese is whatever it is that, like I said, brings you nourishment, your job, where you're making your money, and the minute that that's not making you money anymore and providing, the resources you need, you have got to figure out how to change quickly. You cannot just wait for it to stop completely and then all of a sudden you're just left with nothing. The book tells it way better than I tell it, okay? But really the 3 takeaways I got from it was, eventually those guys, they ended up leaving because they realized that they had to. They didn't leave as quickly as they wanted to, but they left and found more cheese, okay? But the 3 takeaways are, number 1, past success does not guarantee future success. Just because you were great at it for all these years, when things change and the cheese is moved, whatever you used to do, it does not work anymore, okay? So don't think that just because you're good at it right now and that you've been good at it a long time means that you're going to be good at it forever, because things change, okay? Number 2, you've got to constantly check the cheese, and that was where they failed. The mice were understanding that the cheese was dwindling, it was getting old, all this stuff was happening, And these people, the little people, ended up putting their heads down. They didn't want to acknowledge that the cheese was getting old. They didn't want to, face the facts, and they ended up just thinking that one day it was gone. It does not happen like that. You can see the trends on what's happening in your life and your business if you just pay attention and watch them. So you've got to keep an eye on it. And once you start to see the changes and things are not working the way that they're, been working, you got to start making changes and adapt. Okay. The third thing that I took away from that story is you cannot be afraid to get uncomfortable and go into the unknown. Okay. In life, we are not going to continue to do the same thing every single day for the rest of our lives. We're going to have new jobs. We're going to have new ways that we make money. We're going to have all these new things, and you have to embrace the change because it's inevitable, okay? You have to change in order to keep moving along in life. There's no job, there's no career that just stays static and stays the same. If you think that your job is going to remain the same forever, you're foolish, okay? It's not. So those were the 3 takeaways I got from the book. Really good. And I've seen it in my own business. I've seen things that we used to do that worked really well. Now they're not working good this year. So we've had to shift and go with the change and do something different. And now that's working. And I understand I have to constantly watch what we're doing now to make sure that it continues to work. And the moment it's not working anymore, it shows signs of decline, I need to start adjusting and changing and, figure out what's the next place. Where do I find the next cheese? So that's my review of Who Moved My Cheese. Great read, only takes an hour. You guys should definitely go read it. It's a great lesson.